As a science fiction fan, I enjoy books that broaden my horizons or challenge my perspectives. And that's why I started my Reading Around the World challenge. In case you don't know, I started this challenge all the way back almost a year ago. Remember that this project isn't necessarily that I'm recommending all of these books to you, just that these are the books that I picked up or hope to pick up, and I'm hoping to increase the name recognition or the title recognition for those of you out there who are also interested in reading science fiction from around the world. Last piece of this is a quick disclaimer specific to this video and all the videos for my Around the World project. And that is, of course, that I was not a stickler for exactly where the author was born or lives now. So instead, I just believed the author bio from wherever they said they were. I'm just doing my best here. So I'm also not great with some of the names, so please forgive me. That said, let's get into the first country, and that's gonna be Finland. So I have two books for Finland. The first is The Moon Day Letters by Emmi Ituranta. And this book is told from the future in a style of letters. And we're following Lumi, who is writing letters to her spouse as her spouse has gone away for a work trip across the solar system. And as the trip extends longer and longer, it's pretty obvious that her spouse has now been somehow mysteriously disappeared. And as the search grows more and more desperate, the letters that Lumi writes to her spouse become more and more reflective on things that she wishes did or did not happen in the relationship, what some of their history is, and also how Lumi herself wishes that she could change. And the story heats up when the disappearance ends up being traced back to Lumi's old mentor, Vivian. And conspiracy is afoot. This is a very interesting story, and I was not sure how I would feel about a epistolary story that's told all in letters, but this one worked really well for me. I really felt emotionally invested in this character. She felt like a real person to me in this one, and I'm definitely going to be interested in looking at more of Emmi's works in the future.
More!
The next book from Finland is The Quantum Thief by Hannu Rajaniemi. This book is essentially a cat and mouse hard science fiction novel that follows Jean Leflamber, a master thief and hacker who is currently contained inside a digital as well as a physical prison, who is very much struggling to hang on to his identity as he is forced to kill himself over and over and over again. But he is finally offered a way out as long as he does one more job for them. But Jean Leflamber never makes things easy and throws a wrench into the system by first requiring that they go and reobtain his memory that he wiped himself to hide unknown secrets. This book is an experience. I really felt like this author does not spoon feed you at all, and you spend the first half of the book trying to figure out what's going on, and you're loving it the whole time. Honestly, I feel like this book should come with a seatbelt.
Buckle up.
I had a great time with it, and I definitely recommend. The next country is going to be Cuba. This is a novella called Red Dust by the author Yas. This is a satirical little sarcastic novella with some underlying tones of some defeatism. This one's following Raymond, who is an android police officer patrolling the space between the unworthy humans and the rest of the sentient galaxy. Raymond is asked to hunt down a particularly troublesome human and ends up getting himself trapped in a space station together, forcing them to listen to each other, and especially for Raymond to figure out that they may have more in common than he expected. This was a fantastic little novella, as long as you don't mind the underlying defeatism that is very prevalent throughout the rest of the novel. The next country is Israel. This book is Central Station by Lavi Tidhar. This is a modern-day fix-up novel. Central Station is a spaceport of the old Tel Aviv and follows many characters and their lives as they intertwine and everything meets in the end. We follow Boris, a man who has just returned from Mars after his father Vlad died of too many memories. He's visiting Miriam, his ex-wife, who's raising their son by herself, and tells Boris that he has essentially developed some strange abilities. His visit is interrupted by Caramel, a data vampire he used to love, whose very presence is threatening to them all. This book was so interesting. I got lost in the world building. It was a fantastic world and universe, and the idea of a data vampire was just an incredible one. I really had a great time with this and will definitely be looking up more books by this author. The next country is going to be Korea. I have 2 books for this country. The first is going to be one that I haven't gotten to quite yet, and that's Toward Eternity by Anton Hur. This book is supposed to explore the question of what makes us human, especially in a world where nanotechnology begins to replace whole organ systems due to cancer. This one is written as entries in a notebook that is passed between characters as they write their perspectives on different events that happen. The story hinges apparently around poetry that is used to train an AI that will maybe or maybe not save all of humanity, as well as talking about the power of storytelling. This story has an incredible amount of positive reviews and really caught my eye when I was first looking for fiction from around the world. And it is through this story that ironically I didn't get to, that I got to the second book in this list. The second book is Counterweight by Juna, and it was translated by the author from the first book, Anton Hur. Now what's interesting about this book is Juna is apparently one of the most prolific science fiction writers in Korea today. A lot of their work is not translated into English, so it's very difficult to get a hold of. But Juna is a pen name, and nobody knows the age or the sex or the name of this author. And this author does do quite a lot of film and scripts as well as novels. So that's kind of an interesting backstory, and I was just very intrigued to see what they had. The story of Counterweight is it follows a company called LK that is turning a tropical resort town into a teeming traveling hub for the new space elevator that they are building in orbit. And of course, they have to have a huge hunk of orbital space trash and debris that acts as a counterweight for the cable that anchors it to Earth. The billionaire CEO company of LK suddenly dies, and his data, the secrets of the company, and a bunch of personal treasures are put on a data card that is secretly hidden within the counterweight up in orbit in the space counterweight. The book captures a lot of action as 4 of his main competitors are going up the cable and racing to get to the top of the counterweight so they can get a hold of the data first. This book was incredibly cinematic. It was apparently initially planned to be a film that just never ended up getting enough funding. And so they made it into a novel instead. And boy, was it action-packed. The next country on this list is going to go all the way up to Iceland. This is going to be the book Love Star by Andre Magnusson. So in a future world where a brilliant scientist whose name is Love Star develops this technology to be able to transfer data using birdsong. It's kind of like magnetic, but they never quite explain it. And because of this, he starts a company called Love Star that will disconnect all of humanity from all of our wired and wireless devices. Instead, this bird waves can access humans anywhere. You can get out of debt now by becoming a howler who takes on a sponsor and howls the advertisements whenever they're in big crowds. Or you can become a complimenter who also gets a little bit of money for every time you compliment a particular person's outfit, shoes, or device.
Oh, look at you, the bird
based off of whether the company has paid for that or not. There's also technology out there by this bird wave to allow us to hack hormones and pheromones and allows science to take over love. And you can be calculated to find your one true love. Love Star is now on to his next idea, which is following where prayers go so he can track down heaven. In the meantime, we're following an alternate perspective named Indridi, who happens to find his one true love all by himself in college as a woman named Sigrid. And Indridi and Sigrid are super happy until one day the company sends her a letter that says she has been calculated and Indridi is not, in fact, her one true love. After this, the couple and Indridi's life in particular begins to fill with doubts and slowly but surely unravel. And these two stories intertwine. This story is one that I'm just not doing justice for because it was such an interesting perspective. This one reminds me a little bit of a darker version of Quality Land. If you remember that book from Germany from the first novel, this story is really something that talks a lot about whether or not technology and science should take over a lot of those elements of human life that we leave to our emotions and our mind. And there's so many interesting aspects to the story. The number of social commentary here is almost endless. If you're one of those people out there who enjoys that kind of story like I am, I would highly recommend picking up Love Star soon.
Read it.
The next country we have on the list is going to be Poland. And of course, we have to cover Stanislaw Lem. Now, I did not get along with Solaris, so instead we're going to cover a futurological congress. This is a ironical, absurdist, satirical, tight little novella that was so much fun. We follow a man in the future that's going to the Futurological Congress meeting that is being held at a conference center in future Costa Rica. However, after he gets there, he discovers that lots of other conferences are happening and some terrorist group has accidentally leaked some hallucinogens into the hotel's water. And as time goes on, the line between reality and fantasy really starts to blur in the most absurd and also awesome ways possible. There are so many interesting jibes at government and totalitarian governments and the absurdism of our culture. I would highly recommend the story, and I'm not one for absurdism. This one was so much fun. And every time you thought you knew where it was going to go, you didn't. You just didn't. You didn't see it coming. So I really enjoyed Futurological Congress and would highly recommend everyone pick it up. Definitely, in my opinion, better than Solaris. The next book is one that I have not gotten to, and that is going to be Nest of Worlds by Marek Huberath. This is one that I have been meaning to read because it is award-winning, but it's been around for a little while. And in this, we have a world where all the residents are required to move every 35 years. We also have a rigid caste system that's based off of hair color, but it's different in every land that you're in. So while you may be the top of the food chain in this land, after 35 years, you have to move somewhere else and you may be the bottom of the food chain there, or vice versa. And we follow one particular couple who are right in the middle of moving, and I guess in between each land, we have something like time dilation. So they have to calculate separately how to arrive at the same time of this place. Once they get there, they start noticing that all of the people around them begin to die in really weird ways, in such a way that it's very consistently obvious it's them. The government starts to investigate, and we also begin to see that all of the deaths and stories are in a particular book called The Nest of Worlds that has been recently published. The problem is every time the main character picks up the book, there's different page numbers and different stories every time.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
And as we go more and more into the story, apparently there's multiple layers of the Nest of Worlds books, and many characters reading this book throughout time. Sounds a little bit like string theory or parallel universes. I don't know, I haven't read it, but it sounds incredibly fascinating, and I can't wait to pick this one up. And the last country is the Czech Republic. For this country, we have RUR, also known as Rossum's Universal Robots by Karel Čapek. This is one of the most important stories of all of science fiction. This is the story that coined the term robots.
Robots.
Robots, huh?
So apparently in Carol's language, robot kind of means surf. So that's where Rossum's Universal Surf comes from. And in this story, it's told like a play, in the same way that you would read William Shakespeare. So that might be off-putting for some, but trust me when I say this story was incredible. We follow a woman named Helena who is taking over her father's company, and she comes to the factory to demand a tour so she gets to see where they make and how they make the artificial people that they're selling. This little tiny novella was such a fast read, and it goes into so many deep topics like what makes us human and what defines other, and gets into so many different layers. This is one of the most fun stories I read in this whole project so far. So if you haven't picked this one up, it's very easy to get a hold of in a Masterworks edition, but it also might be free online. And that does it for all of the countries that I have been able to pick up and read. There are a couple in here that I haven't quite completely finished. I'm hoping that you guys will get a chance to pick some of these up. I will have a part 3 coming sometime in the future, but please definitely check out the first video from this segment. And also, as always, leave me some comments down below to let me know if you have any other suggestions. Remember that they have to be in English for me to read them. And finally, you guys, I will definitely see you in my next video.